Nandana Brajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe Srila Prabhupada ki Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ke Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ke Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're continuing to hear about the fundamental principles of material nature from the third canto, chapter 26, text 56. Nirbheda virajastvag romasmashrad dayastata tata osha dayaschasam Shisnam nirbibide tata Nirbibedha virajastvag Romasmasradayastataha Tata oshadayaschasan Shishan nirbibide tata Nirbibede Rajastvag Romasmasradayastataha Tata oshadayaschasan Shishnam nirbibede tata Nirbibede Rajastvag Ramasmasradayastataha Tata oshadayaschasan Shishnam nirbebede tataha Nirbebeda appeared Viraja of the universal form Tvak skin Roma hair Smashru beard mustache Adya and so on Tataha then Tataha thereupon Oshodaya the herbs and drugs Cha and Asan appeared Shishnam genitals Nibabede appeared Tataha after this. Translation. Then the universal form of the Lord, the Virat Purusha, manifested his skin. Thereupon the hair, mustache, and beard appeared. After this, all the herbs and drugs became manifested. And then his genitals also appeared. Purport. The skin is the site of the touch sensation. The demigods who control the production of herbs and medicinal drugs are the deities presiding over the tactile sense. We'll do one more verse. Damodar Kumar. Retas tasmarapna asan nirabhadyata vaigudam gudarapano panachcha mrityur loka bhayankaraha. After this, the semen, the faculty of procreation, and the god who presides over the waters appeared. Next appeared an anus, and then the organs of defecation, and thereupon the god of death, who is feared throughout the universe. Please repeat. After this, semen, the faculty of procreation, and the god who presides over the waters appeared. Next appeared an anus, and then the organs of defecation, and thereupon the god of death, who is feared throughout the universe. Purport. It is understood herewith that the faculty to discharge semen is the cause of death. Therefore, yogis and transcendentalists who want to live for greater spans of life voluntarily restrain themselves from discharging semen. The more one can restrain the discharge of semen, the more one can be aloof from the problem of death. There are many yogis living up to 300 or 700 years by this process. And in the Bhagavatam it's clearly stated that discharging semen is the cause of horrible death. The more one is addicted to sexual enjoyment, the more susceptible he is to a quick death. If we could pray together. Om Jnanatimarandasya Gnananjana Salakya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam Namahom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharne Nivishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarne Vanchakapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I put out a disclaimer. Not being a liberated soul, good part of this class will be preaching to myself. I thought maybe it'd just be me and Dravida, and what have you. And I thought, okay, I'll be comfortable preaching to myself. That's not that I simply want to hear myself, but I'm going to talk about things that probably have relevance to you as also to me, to the degree we're influenced by the bodily concept of life. So I'm asking for your prayers and Srila Prabhupada's mercy. First thing that comes to mind, interestingly enough, is the Virata Rupa. It really isn't an eternal form of the Lord. And in the second canto, it's described that this is a nice meditation for those who can't conceive of God as a person. I mean, if we were still in the mentality of Beavis and Butthead, we'd be. And then an anus appeared. Anus. It's like, what in the world is this? We're in the temple of Krishna and we're talking about these anus, the defecation, genitals, semen like this. So the ears might perk up. But I'm going to get into, actually, it's not the same perspective that you might think, Beavis or Bhakta, whatever that guy's name was. So, God has genitals. He has an anus. I mean, it's like, whoa. The impersonalists cannot even conceive of that. That's like, anus. The thing that I was saying, get into a little later, I'll jump into it right now. Here, it's in relationship to the god of death. I mean, where the stool that comes out of this bag comes out of, this is not a pleasant thing. I mean, you and I, hopefully, with folded hands, have a working system where it's, regularly taking care of the body. Some people don't. They have to have the colostomy. And they have a bag and a tube. It goes from the intestines right into the bag. We have a god sister like that. And if you don't have that circumstance, you think like, oh man, that's nasty. But the anus and the evacuation stool, oh man, that's nasty. But because we're identifying with this body to greater or lesser degrees, hey, my poop doesn't stink. It's actually a weird thing, isn't it? I'm okay with the stench of my bad air and evacuating, but boy, get up in the Brahmacharya ashram, somebody else has just done their business. Whoa! God of death. The god of death. Now let's go ahead and relate it to that. The soul, as far as I understand, leaves through one of the gates of the body. When it leaves the body, it just doesn't pierce through the heart and break through the rib cage or the skin or what have you. It actually, the subtle airs and the soul right on them leads through one of the gates of the body. You have 9 gates. We all know what the 9 gates are, right? Right. Okay. So for the non-devotees, for those who are simply absorbed in sense gratification, when a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activity. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he's already received a body which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he's been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification, by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after another. So we're talking about leaving the body. And for the person described in this verse, those who are mad, and who isn't mad? If you aren't mad, just clue into Hollywood's propaganda, clue into the greedy corporations and Wall Streets and whatever, their propaganda, and they're going to fan the fires of lust and greed as much as they can. Just look at any billboard, practically speaking, driving down the road. And people are becoming mad after this. So what happens? Often they leave passing stool and urine. And it's not just that the body's relieving itself, that's them exiting. Being dragged by the neck with the noose by the messengers of the god of death. Horrible. I mean, it's not just describing the weakness you get by discharging semen. I mean, I sell to lots of people. I certainly see lots of people when I'm working. And it is just pathetic to see old men walking hand in hand with their wife. Not because they're holding hands or walking together. That's not the problem. But to see how weak so many of these men are because they threw away all their semen. The women don't have the same price tag. It's not in the same fashion for a man. The more you discharge semen, the more weak you become. The more susceptible. Srila Prabhupada is saying to a horrible, quick death. But certainly disease. Semen comes from blood. Blood has to be made. And the more you just discharge your blood, then the more you're losing your life. So I see it all the time, these weak men. You go to the other side of the spectrum. Srila Prabhupada's referring, do you believe that there are people that are 300 to 700 years old? Yeah. Just curious. Got a couple of believers. Can I hear an amen?
I believe.
Amen! Srila Prabhupada in the Mahamela, the Kumbh Mela. But it was a Maha Kumbh Mela when he went in 1977, January. And Srila Prabhupada said, be respectful to everyone, because some of these are very highly advanced transcendentalists and yogis. Some of them are 300, 700 years old. Now, they aren't looking like people's conception of God, if he's the oldest up on the... Hell! It's not like that. No, they look very young and youthful, like the four Kumaras. Very, very interesting. Nothing like, Anyway, not going too far in that direction, because we're not going to live to be 300. Fat chance. But anyway, civilization is not teaching about this. They're not teaching that by running madly after the sense gratification. What is the epitome of sense gratification? It's sex. Srila Prabhupada says if we follow the four regulated principles, then we can overcome all the material sense gratification that Maya has to offer. Why is that? Kali Yuga, where was the personification of Kali given shelter by Parikshit Maharaj? Wherever there's illicit sex, gambling, intoxication, meat eating, and the hoarding of gold. Now, when Maharaj Parikshit ruled, those places were, scantily existing. So it was just the same as banishing him, to outer Siberia, because his citizens were regulated and trained and sheltered to be human beings, engaged in a progressive journey to higher elevation, to greater happiness. Freedom, ultimately, of all miseries of material existence. But now it's rampant. And this desire for sense gratification, when we hear this word, pramattaha, madness, you might not be able to see the contrast as much as Dharma Seta and Dravida Prabhus and myself. But you see some of the things that pass for a dress code these days that people wear. I'm a man, so let's deal with my lust. Srila Prabhupada said, you Westerners, you're cursed with lust, so let's just deal with it's one thing when we're absorbed in our Krishna consciousness, absorbed in a service that we really want to do, that we don't have to be, someone doesn't have a cattle prod to, come on, Prabhu, need you to feel this service. A cattle prod. Govinda. No, you have a service you like, and that comes with time. When you become more and more attached to Krishna, you become more and more attached to serving Krishna. When you're absorbed in serving Krishna, remembering Krishna, hearing and chanting about Krishna, lust is not a problem. Because at least you're following the regulative principles of devotional service. And as that verse I quoted, I forget who was giving class, but I think it was Balaram. But when the higher taste is there, for the liberated soul, that's not an issue. It's like, ooh, that's nasty. Yamunacharya, Mahabhagavad, says he spit at the thought of sex life. But at least the liberated souls, they just, they have no attraction for that which is temporary and the cause of their misery, cause of another material body. Do I look like an idiot? No way. But this lust It is the blockchain technology of Maya. You can't hack it. You can't break the code by yourself. You have to be given the key. And the spiritual master is giving us the key. He's giving us the process of Krishna consciousness. My dear boys, of all living entities who have accepted the material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form of life should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hogs that eat stool. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. By such activity, one's heart is purified. And when one attains this position, he attains eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever. And the thread of thought that I was going to follow was this sense gratification. Those who are mad after it, they're becoming more and more degraded by it. And we see the contrast. I see now these women. It's like, used to be cut-off shorts, okay, mini skirts, this and that. But now we have it where the cut-off shorts, hey, to show part of the lower, buttocks, that's proper gentlemanly English, that's like the norm. It's like, wow, we're not leaving much for imagination here, are we? And they have no clue that they're just victims of some exploitive people just wanting us to be in animal consciousness. If you're totally absorbed in sex or intoxication or sports, frivolous activities or gambling, you are easy prey for control. I can exploit you to the fullest extent. You're going to work hard like an ass, and who's going to get the profits? We are, the 1%ers. Those who are really pulling the strings, and all those who kowtow with them and buy into it. The movers and the shakers, the people who have the karma that enables them to exploit others and get the big bucks to enjoy in this lifetime. And their sense gratification just becomes more and more depraved. Okay, we had, it would come out, John F. Kennedy. People consider him a great man in terms of history. American presidents, because he was the last one who stood up to the military complex and the CIA, and he was telling the American people right on his presidential things, there is a black force that thrives only in darkness and secretness that is trying to take this country and is trying to control you, is trying to steal away their concept of freedom, independence. Now that's an illusory concept in this world, but anyway, that's a leader. He's supposed to protect his citizens. So he was having affairs with women. Oh, you'd hear some kind of small talk about it. But now what do you hear? You hear about these people engaging in pedophilia and child abuse. I mean, God, just see the depravity. Now, it was probably going on back then, but it's just, now it's like open, it's just open. This is what you do. Because none of this satisfies anyone. Sense gratification doesn't work. It's the dangling carrot that you can never grab hold of. And those who get blessed by the spiritual master, then they come to see it. They realize it. Progressively, they come to understand, no, I'm not stupid. How many times am I going to run against the wall? It may look funny to somebody else, John Belushi, running against the wall, or, these cocaine driven, jacked up comedians just, oh wow, that's hilarious. Slapstick comedy, running against the wall. Or what was that guy's name? This is for a younger generation. That was showing my age. What was that guy who did jackass comedy, he did films where he was hurting himself purposely? What was his name? Steve-O. What was the first name? Is it just Steve? Steve-O? Steve-O. Steve-O. Now that's what he did for a living. And he made a lot of bucks off it and he became famous. Now it's funny. But let's just get right down to it. He had to end up quitting. He stopped doing that gig. Because it's like Eva Knievel, showing my age once again. The guy broke practically every bone in his body trying to jump over these great distances with a motorcycle. Now Prahlad talks about like this. People will risk their lives just to make money. But why? It's not simply the money. And what can you do with the money? just after some times, it's just zeros added onto your bank balance. But with money, you can get power and you can get sense gratification. And the more depraved you are with the power, the more you'll exploit people, killing people just so I can make more money. No problem. No problem. And for sense gratification, if I have to exploit women and children, men, whatever it may be, for my selfish, and they engage in dark, sinful, evil things. Trying to dress it up, it's just like with sex. This New Age stuff, they talk about tantric, and this and that, trying to glorify the divine, Shiva, Shakti within us or something like that. They're just trying to decorate the dead body and get something out of it. But it never satisfies anybody. It does not satisfy the soul. It simply agitates and absorbs, distracts the living entity from the real truth. That I'm not of this world and nothing of this world. This world has nothing to offer me. Nothing. But since you have no other alternative, or of no other alternative, then you just keep trying harder and harder and harder. And that's why the modes get lower and lower and lower, and the activities become more and more degrading, till before you know it, you truly are just an animal with a suit and coat and suit, coat and tie. Just an animal. Vicious, worse than an animal, lower than an animal. Because animals at least follow God's laws, but these people, they have no clue. You want to talk about horrible deaths. I'm looking at Rishabhadev's teachings in the 5th canto, but very easily we just fast forward to the descriptions of hell for the activities these people are doing. That death, that intermedium time between the body they gave up and their next body, they're just being trained to become animals. You don't need human form of life. And some of these people that have unlimited riches and exploit the world, and I say world, some of them, like Srila Prabhupada said, Nixon became a germ. That's a quote I heard many a times. We can quote one that everyone knows, Nehru became a dog. Now, dog's not that far down. But, the more sinful you are, then, man, the further down you get pushed. And you have to get trained up so that the consciousness can actually, if you tried taking your consciousness right now and put it in a dog's body or this or that, you'd fight and scream. Let's say the verse was dogs and hogs. Let's say the hog, because it's a little more, demonstrative. Eating stool. You would just kick and scream, no, I don't want. But you get trained up in hellish planets, being tortured and suffered and getting used, finally conditioned, and okay, he's ready. Put him in the lower species. It's serious business. And, we're the devotees. We're taking shelter of the fearless lotus feet of our spiritual master, our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, and the lotus feet of Radhagiri Hari, etc. And so we're safe as long as we maintain the relationship of service. But it's not just the 4 regulative principles. This is where maybe it drives home for some of us. Because the gross lust turns into subtle lust. And what is the 3 manifestations of subtle lust? Profit, distinction, and adoration. Now everybody understands the profit. You go for the money. The distinction and adoration, it always had been kind of like, they sound pretty synonymous. But I looked it up this morning so we could appreciate the two. Distinction. To want distinction, the definition for distinction, a distinguishing attribute or characteristic. Second definition, part A. Excellence or eminence as of character or reputation. And the B, a special feature or character conferring superiority. So when we're wanting distinction, basically we're wanting to be recognized as the best at whatever we're identifying with. I'm the best lecturer here. I'm the best kirtan here, writer of poems, performer of puja, whatever it may be. I dress Lord Jagannath better. I mean, if we're looking, if internally, and who doesn't have these weeds? We all want to be recognized. Let's be honest about it. And there's a balance in it where as friends trying to help each other, we should be acknowledging each other's service. You're dang right, you dress the Lord very nicely. Your poems are awe-inspiring. Your example is incredible. Your regulation, your cleanliness, your punctuality, your desire to have the standards what Srila Prabhupada set. No compromise. These are all things that are praiseworthy. They are head and shoulders above everybody else. But if we think that's us, that I get the credit, then we're the thief. The gifts and the blessings and the talents we have are simply given to us by Krishna. And because of the direction and shelter of the spiritual master, now they're becoming manifest and properly utilized, dovetailed in the service of the pleasure of Krishna's servant. We're not even worthy of offering service to Krishna. That's a long ways off. Beginning with the liberated stage. What is it? Madbhaktim labate. No. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu. Madbhaktim labate param. That's when bhakti begins. But at least with the same benefit is there if we're pleasing the devotee of Krishna, the pure devotee of Krishna. And we're given that opportunity. Priceless. But we have to recognize as the if you take it more than just a ritual, when you sit down to do your purificatory process in worshiping the deity, you meditate on your spirit soul, and I'm simply the servant of my spiritual master, and please allow me to assist you in your worship of the Lord. Isn't that all part of the meditation? That should be the meditation for all of us in all of our services. The less advanced we are, the more advanced we think we are or think others should recognize we are. That's the distinction. And the adoration, and the flip side of that, of course, is that those who are truly advanced, they are the most humble, thinking themselves unadvanced, unqualified, unworthy. And that is the mood in which they can call out piteously for the Lord's help. Pralada, Hriday, Ya, Ladam, Bhakta Vidya Vidaranam, Sharadindu, Ruchim Vande, Parindra Vadanam Harim. Sridhar Maharaj, Sridhar Swami prays, let me offer my obeisances in the Lord Nrsimhadev, who's always enlightening Prahlad Maharaj within his heart, and who always kills the nescience that attacks the devotees. His mercy is distributed like moonshine, and his face is like that of a lion. Let me offer my obeisances unto him again and again. So, those who are advanced always feel the need to pray for the shelter and the mercy of the spiritual master and the Lord. Now, in terms of adoration, it's an act of worship, or the second thing, profound love or regard. So, some of us fall victim to the desire to be the best friend of everybody. And that's a really easy one to dovetail in preaching. Because you have the desire, you got to be nice to be recognized as everyone's friend. Isn't it? I mean, you got to show some concern and care. But if the motive is an unhealthy thing, thinking, I need to be, liked, there's a sense of unworthiness there that is an unhealthy psychological condition. And I have a very good friend who, from childhood was drilled into his brain that he wasn't worthy. He was a piece of crap. And so, of course, you try your hardest to become recognized as, no, you like me, don't you? You love me. But the thing about that type of motive, when you're dovetailing in Krishna consciousness, there isn't a balance. And it's not about Krishna. Ultimately, subtly, very subtly, but it's about me. And to the degree these things that we do in our devotional service are me, then to that degree, Krishna is going to arrange lessons in our life where we're going to wake up that this isn't making me happy. I got to get the balance straight. I got to flip it over into trying to please Krishna. Not concerned about my happiness. He's happy, I'm happy. And it's very interesting, this whole lust thing. The scriptures declare that if you can absorb yourself in the beauty of Radha Girdhari, you'll have no problems with being attracted with the so-called beauty of the material body of a living entity in a woman's body, or for the ladies, a man's body. You'll have no problem. I mean, it's just such a joke, I mean, I'm old, I have an intellectual or philosophical tendency, and it's just a joke the way the fashion, most of them are gay, the fashion designers, and this will not be politically correct, but I have plenty of gay friends outside the devotee community, what would you say, co-workers and acquaintances, etc. And some gays don't like women, and they take great pleasure in making fun of women. Well, let's dress them up like this. We laugh, but that's actually true. And they humiliate them, and people buy it, and they put my name on that cloth, and you didn't know that. I didn't know that was a metaphor. Yeah. I mean, just like, we're in the Bhagavatam, so how do we say it? That's just another flavor of misery. So a number of my gay friends have told me how difficult it is to have that identity. Because even among those who are gay, okay, you look for shelter of birds of a feather, flock, they are so exploitive and hurtful to them, to many of themselves in their so-called relations. It's just the harder you try to enjoy sense gratification, the more you suffer, and the more you suffer, the harder you try, and the worse you get. People they no longer are really people, they're just objects for our sense gratification, the more degraded you are. So I was saying, if we absorb ourselves in the transcendental beauty of the Lord, the one who is attracted to the lotus feet of the Lord, he will never become attracted to temporary beauty of this world. Never. He would see the relationship of the beauty in this world to Krishna, because the beauty manifesting in this world is the beauty of Krishna. Here we're saying it in terms of the universal form. But interestingly enough, those who are lovers of Krishna, they are not prioritizing that I really am absorbed in seeing the beauty of the Lord. It's so beautiful, this and that. They are absorbed in wanting to be qualified to be seen by the Lord, which is a whole other flip-flop in devotional service. It's like so many things seem to be contrary to what you would be aspiring for. But the more we are trying to present ourselves as presentable, as someone you would please kindly accept, I'm going to endeavor to serve my spiritual master to please you, then that is what attracts the Lord. That's selflessness. It's anyabhilashita shunyam. And I told you I'm preaching to myself here. But anything below that, you have the danger of being victim to these lower pushings. And it's all so subtle and lined up. Vacha vegam, manasakroda vegam, jiva vegam, udarapasta vegam. Our spiritual master, he says it's a straight line in brahmachari life. If we fall victim to overeating, and it's a solid, continuous, this is where I'm stuck. I'm at the level of Krishna consciousness. What is it called? Anamaya? Taking pleasure in eating. Now, Prabhupada encouraged it, because that's a heck of a lot better than being an unregulated two-legged animal out there. If the way you are attracted most to Krishna is prasadam, then all glories and empowerment to you. Eat till you waddle like a duck. But there are side effects besides the purification. And what is the side effect? When the belly gets too big, what happens? It pushes on the genitals. Now you brahmacharis who are strictly following, what happens with the pushing of the genitals? If you overeat and it's a constant thing, what happens? Now these desires for sex life, they're like bubbles coming up in the swamp, and it's incredible. You never know when it's going to come up. But that's how I quote Prabhupada, as he kind of stumbled in getting the right term, but nocturnal emission, losing semen, because this is a dream, daytime, nighttime's a dream, but both seem very real because we're identifying with it. I mean, if even, let me take an example, a moment to glorify Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj. He passed semen 7 times in his life for 7 sons. That's brahmacharya. Married Grihastha, that's brahmacharya. Because there was never any illicit sex. Completely controlled the semen. And only discharged when he was doing so in the service of the Lord and brought up devotees. Continued expanding the gotra, Achyuta gotra. But, these bubbles, when he took sannyas, he confided to one of our god brothers that after the initiation, and he was given his dandan, he got up from the fire and he went to pay his obeisances, because that's what the first thing you do, you pay your obeisances. When he paid his obeisances, he started to get up, and all of a sudden he was over-flooded with attraction to the Matajis around. Now this is shocking. This is I don't know the status of his advancement at that time in Krishna consciousness, but I guarantee it was pretty dang lofty. And he was like, holy smokes. And he didn't get up. He lay down and he prayed and he prayed and he prayed and he begged and he cried, take it away from me. And he wouldn't get up until he felt the tsunami wave that had overcome him dissipate and leave. That's the process of Krishna consciousness. On our own, you can't break the blockchain. It's impenetrable. But when we are given the key by our spiritual master and actually hold on tightly to it, then we have not a care in the world. Our future is bright. And even if somebody has ups and downs in their devotional service, your future is bright as long as you hold on to the process. Don't give it up for any reason. Don't do shortcuts. Don't minimize the association of devotees. Don't offend the devotees. Throw this one in, since I saw this note that was just so awesome. I love running into my notes when I haven't seen them for a long, long time, and I'll be winding it up shortly. But this is in relationship to appreciating devotees, not offending them. I will not listen to other devotees speak of Vaishnav's faults. If you simply do that, that's a big part of advancing in Krishna consciousness. I will forgive any Vaishnava that I felt has offended me. The pure devotees, they forgive you before you even finish committing the offense. Shiva and Daksha is a perfect example. I will honor at least mentally all the devotees. I will check my mind from not being happy at seeing a Vaishnava. Instead, I will feel happy to see him or her, knowing they are dear to Krishna. It's a Vaishnava opera just to be unhappy to see a devotee. And who doesn't have that with some of the devotees? It's amazing. But in purity of Krishna consciousness, no, the love is there because that's the spiritual nature of you and me. And when you've reawakened it, when you're on the liberated platform and it's beginning more and more to shine forth, when one is recognizing, how did you want to finish that verse? The self as the servant of how did you want to give the correct to the master, seeing one's self as master? What was the correct understanding?
Oh yeah. Well, that's
just the sentence. If you can say the sentence for me.
Yeah. When the karma is eradicated, one sees oneself and one's master.
Simultaneously, Srila Prabhupada writes. And when we're on that platform, you can't help but appreciate, my goodness, am I fortunate to have the association of you Prabhus. I would never, please don't ever kick me away, because I'm not going anywhere. So please don't kick me away. So anyway, these are some thoughts that I wanted to beat my mind with in terms of sex, lust, sense gratification, And ultimately, it all comes from the Adi Ras. It's amazing. I mean, it's just ever expanding, this beautiful philosophy of Krishna consciousness.